And we are live.
Good evening, everyone. I'm calling this meeting of the Historic Districts Review Board to order. Today, we are January the 25th, 2022. This is our 38th virtual meeting. Melissa, may we have a roll call, please? And good evening, Melissa.
Good evening. Chair Rios.
Here.
Vice Chair Katz.
Here.
Member Beachside.
Here.
Member Bienvenue.
Here.
Member Guida.
Excused.
Thank you. Member Larson.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Melissa. We have approval of minutes for January the 11th, 2022. Anyone? Board members or staff, do you have any changes to any of these, to these meetings? Let me see, Member Benvenue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one small change on page 22, fourth line down, 35 East Alameda should be 535 East Alameda. And that's all I have.
Thank you, and it appears no one else has a hand up, so I will entertain a motion to approve these minutes as just amended.
Bienvenue so moves.
Cat.
Who seconded?
Beachside.
Beachside, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Member Beachside.
Yes.
Member Bienvenue.
Yes.
Member Katz.
Yes.
Member Larson.
Abstain.
Thank you. The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much. Under findings of fact and conclusions of law, we have 2. And are there any changes to either one of these? And I see Member Benvenue has his hand up.
I have no changes,
No changes, no one
but I
else?
would move to approve if no one has any amendments.
Thank you. And who seconds this motion?
Cats will second.
And roll call vote, please.
Member Beachside.
Yes.
Member Bienvenue.
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz.
Yes.
Member Larson.
Abstain.
Thank you. The motion has been approved.
Thank you. We have nothing under old business. And let me see if we have anybody from the public wishing to speak. We have Stephanie Venanato. Good evening, Stephanie. What do you have to tell us this evening?
Hello, I just wanted to say, Ms. Rios, that if you're on Zoom and I think you go to video, there's a thing called filters, and you can actually make your hair look a different color, and you can put on sunglasses, and so
Oh, God.
you're out of control. You might as well have a little fun with it, is in my opinion. So anyway, that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to mess with that right at the moment. Okay. I'll probably screw it up even further. So, anything under staff communications, Carly or anyone else?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Board, I have just a couple items, 3 items. Another announcement, the ARC historian position is still open for just a little bit longer. So if you know someone who is interested and lives in the city boundary, then please have them contact me. There is an announcement on our website. There is also the HGRB opening, the construction representative on this board. Also posted on our website, so please contact me. Also must live in the city boundary. And then we are also moving, last item is our staff is moving towards having architects and designers present the design portion their own work once we get to that point. So we are working towards this. There will be a couple that do this tonight. So as we get more stable with this, it may become a requirement. So I want to put that out there, but we'll make that very well known on the website and with our applicants as we move forward. For the first couple hearings of this nature, we'll just see how it goes and continue to make adjustments and refinements. And that is all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Under new business, we'll move on to new business. We have 6 cases this evening. And per usual, I have to tell you about appeals. If you disagree with the decision that this board makes this evening, you do have the option to appeal to the city council. And that can be done after the findings of fact and conclusions of law have been approved. Also, for public participants, I will ask that you limit your comments to 2 minutes. And Carly, if you'll help me with that, I think 2 minutes is plenty of time. So you'll get your thoughts in gear for this evening and be ready to just give the board and the public those 2 minutes. The first case this evening is located at 964 Acequia Madre, and this is Angela's case. So Angela, would you kindly give us your review on this case, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm experiencing technical difficulty. I'm on a new system here. I can't pull up my staff report or my slideshow, and I can't get on the end drive. So
Carly, can you help her with that?
Just texted you, Carly. Should be on the, can you all see me?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
But your hair's not blinking like the chairs.
Should I don't know that I could figure that one out. Yeah, I'm gonna have to just shut down, and I'm useless.
I will work on bringing that up. It'll take me a
Okay.
moment.
I'll see if I can get my staff report in Word. All right, I have my staff report.
You do have the staff report ready?
Yes, I do. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And we will want to see the elevations. So if you don't have them, if Carly can get those.
I guess pull up the PDF packet if they're in there. Your packets have those. I can't project anything else.
Just a moment.
Can you start the staff report now while Carly's pulling that up?
Do you want me to?
Yes,
Sure.
please.
Sure. I have the PDF pulled up, Carly. Okay, 864 Acequia Madre is a single-story, 5,800 square foot building, which is contributing to the downtown and East Side Historic District. It's simplified Spanish Pueblo Revival style with a low transverse gable roof and a white territorial wooden trim. Windows are wood double hung surrounded by white wood trim. While its date of construction is unknown, a portion of the house is likely at least 100 years old. The applicant provided a building footprint study by architectural historian John Murphy that determined that the house's footprint has grown over the years. A photograph shows the northeast corner of the house in a 1984 historic survey without a front portal, no porch, and a recent image showing a wood territorial tiled portal with simple brackets and posts painted white, which you saw today, hopefully that exists there now. Visual evidence also suggests changes to the front facade fenestration, resulting from a 1994 historic board case. A new north portal and yard wall were added. The footprint study states that the front door shifted west between 1984 and the present. The applicant requests designation of primary facades as applicable. Staff recommends facade 2 as primary because it maintains its original massing, historic windows, and location of historic windows. Facade number 1, which is the front, has been significantly altered by the addition of a formal portal, changing its simplified Spanish Pueblo revival style to more of a territorial revival style, which presents as a later addition. The house entry door is not in its original opening. Staff recommends designating the east facade the primary facade per 14-12 point for contributing structures and primary facades. That completes my report.
Thank you very much. Staff, any questions for Angela at this time?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Member Katz.
I was wondering whether you had any graphics that show, I could not pull up anything that showed the north facade, the street facing facade. And I understand that it's been suggested that the door moved, but is there anything that can show that? I haven't seen any evidence of how that might affect the appearance of that facade. And obviously the portal could easily be removed if the facade itself is significantly historic with historic windows and such.
Member Katz, you have the photos in your packet, which I want to bring up, that north facade, which has the porch now. Will that help you?
Well, we see what is showing us now, which is what it looks like now. And it would be nice if there were a photo that showed what it was so we could see how it had changed.
If I might interrupt, there was a photo in our
Without the-
packet from John Murphy, and it shows the house prior to the porch being constructed. And I believe that John Murphy's report indicates that the door, that front door, was moved a little bit to the west. And I was looking at the two pictures and really studying them carefully. And I disagree with John Murphy. I think what the problem, what the situation is here is that the photos were taken from different angles. And I don't think that that door has been moved. And then in the old photo, I can also see the reflection of lights from the windows. And I think it's just, the fact that the photos are taken from different angles, and it's just an illusion that you are, like an optical illusion because of from where the photos are taken. And why would somebody move a door like a foot maybe, or a few inches to the right, to the west? I mean, it's probably the same room. That all just did not make sense to me.
Chair Rios, can you give me a page number and I can navigate to it, which image you're referring to?
If you're asking me, I don't have that
Okay.
with me because I didn't print
Okay.
anything, but it's in there. It's in John's report.
Chair Rios, it's page 16 of our packet.
Thank you.
Okay, if that can be put up there.
Yeah.
There you go. Do you see on the bottom picture how the house there looks a lot longer? I personally think it's just taken from different angles. That's my take on that, but I don't know. Does anybody else have any other opinion?
It's so hard because you can't see the western portion of that facade.
Okay, well, perhaps the applicant can clarify some of this. So if we have no further questions, if no one has any further questions for staff at this time, I will ask that the applicant or applicants be sworn in. And, oh, okay, the applicant is Chris Purvis.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
are you, is he ready?
Chris, are
I'm
you
here.
with us? Chris
you
is
hear
with
me?
us. If
Okay,
you can
thank
swear
you.
him in.
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Christopher Purvis, 518 Old Santa Fe Trail.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
What do you have to tell us about this project?
Well, so John and I have discussed this door at length, and the way I used to try, he suggested this, not what I did was take the door visually and turn it on its side. Doesn't matter where the, because that keeps the scale. And if you try in your mind turning it on its side on the top photograph, it sticks past the end of the building. If you try doing that same thing on the bottom picture here, it doesn't. So it looks to me like it's moved about 3 feet. But I the house is complete, and unless we did destructive testing, we wouldn't know the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the graphic trick I used to see if that would work. Oh, those are nice red squares. Kind of give you that.
Okay.
And I don't know why somebody would move it, except that on the back side of that is where the heater is. You can see the pipe coming out of the wall. And I don't know if it had to do, I just don't know.
Yeah, I guess all of us have a question mark. I mean, I do. Board members, do you have any questions for Mr. Purvis? Member Beachside.
Thank you. Chris, I was just wondering if you knew the age of the what seems like a sunroom on the west elevation. Is that historic?
I don't know. I got John to do as much research as he could. He knows that that's been built. It's an addition, but he couldn't tell me when it was added on. Partly because I think it was before it was added on. It was probably a portal, so it has that. So it doesn't show up in in any kind of roof. That, and there's a lot of trees in that part of town, so we don't get the same clear image.
Sure. We're always looking for examples of historic sunrooms, so thought I would ask. Thank you.
Right.
Member Katz.
Yeah, are the windows on the north facade original or historic?
No, they're not original, but at this point, 1972 is historic. So I can't swear to that, but they are, they are not. Yeah, they're newer, but I can't tell you that they're where they fall in that. Trying to look at the, the 1983 survey, they, we got that one photograph. They don't talk about exactly whether those windows, what the nature of those windows are enough for me to say that that they're changed. It seems like the windows on the on the east facade are also single pane. So I don't know. This Portal edition is, quite different.
Yeah, that's pretty clearly new, but
Right.
Thank you.
Board members, anything further? If not, I will open it for public comment. Let's see who in the public has. Stephanie Benanata, will you swear her in? Melissa, please?
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Stephanie Benanato, PO Box 1601, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I would definitely encourage the board, of course, to designate the east facade as historic, but I would also ask that you consider the north facade there. It's really difficult to tell with any positivity that the door has or hasn't been moved. And if the window openings are historic, and the windows may be 50 years old, then I don't see why, or even if they're newer, if as long as the openings are historic, I would ask that you consider making the north facade primary, with the exception, of course, of the portal. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. There appears that there is no one else from the public wishing to make a comment. So I will take it back to the board and I will entertain a motion at this time. Member Beachside?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion. In case number 2021-004608 HDRB at 964 Acequia Madre, I move to designate the east facade number 2 as primary, excluding the side portion of the portal that appears on that facade, and the north facade number 1, excluding the portal and also excluding any non-historic windows, doors, or openings as to be determined by further assessment.
Thank you for your motion. I will entertain a second to that motion.
I would second that motion.
Anything further? It appears not. Melissa, roll call vote, please.
Member Beachside,
Yes.
Member Bienvenue,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next, we move to 107. The next case, it's Daniel's case, 107 Victoria. This is a non-contributing house. Daniel, may we have your report, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So we mentioned at the beginning of the hearing that we're experimenting with moving towards a format in which presenters will be the applicants themselves. I will share my screen and just remind the board of some of the background before handing off to Will McDonald, who will be presenting. This is 107 Victoria Street in downtown and East Side Historic District. The board heard the case for the review of status on October 21st, 2021, and retained its non-contributing status. It is composed of 2 structures. This is the main house with a filled-in portal here on this corner, and then an accessory unit. Both of these are non-contributing, and the board approved window changes and re-stucco just recently, also on October the 21st. And that concludes my reminder, and I will now hand over to Mr. McDonald.
Okay, are we not asking questions of you if the board needs to ask a question?
I'll defer to Carly on how she would like to proceed with this new format.
I think, Madam Chair, if you would like to ask questions now, I think that's fine, but I think also considering pushing them to staff or the applicant at the end of the full presentation is perfectly acceptable, and that would be fine. I would also remind staff that we do need to read into the record the recommendation.
The recommendation is
Yes.
for approval of the project, finding that it meets the application, the design guidelines.
Thank you, Daniel. There appears, I don't see any board members have their hand up, so I will go on to Will McDonald, if you will swear him in, Melissa.
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Mr. McDonald, you're muted.
I affirm what you just said.
Okay, thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Will McDonald, 488 Arroyo Tenorio, Santa Fe.
Thank you. Will, good evening. Would
Good
you
evening, Madam Chair.
tell us in detail about this project?
Well, I should share my screen.
Would you please?
So I think I'm doing that correctly. I'm hitting the button here that says share screen. Do I need to do something else, or how does it work from that side?
Seems like sharing screen would take you to, we're still not seeing anything. We're just seeing you.
Yeah.
Does it say anything like screen is sharing is disabled?
No. I'm in settings here, and it says I'm just clicking through this. Let me go to advanced.
What about if Daniel shares his screen?
I can share my screen. Oh, Will did send me his presentation. Will, I'll share it and you can tell me when to go to the next slide.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sorry that this didn't work. I think it's a good idea for us to be able to do our own presentation, but it's
yeah, if you're having trouble, then
I don't know if I'm having trouble or you're having trouble, but it's.
Can you see my screen now? Oh dear.
Now it's a blank.
No, it's a blank. Something's happened. I'm gonna have to reopen it. Oh dear. Okay, just a second. I tried to enlarge it and it went away. Here it goes.
But here I'm sharing my screen. I found a new.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay.
Is that you, Will?
That's me, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So I don't know why I'm gonna pull there we go. So what we're doing here is adding this portal here and adding this portal here. And we're talking about adding a coyote fence that runs around the parking area and then along the street. Because of our view triangles, you see here that the fence can be no higher than 3 feet in those areas. We're talking about 42 inches in that area. And we're talking about 6 feet through here in order to create a little bit more privacy in this area. So that's the, move this here so you can see it. Here's the main house. Here's the new portal. And some of what we were trying to do is in this house that had evolved into basically just a rectangular block to give it some architectural interest, as well as creating some nice outdoor spaces. So we have an outdoor area here on the south and one on the west. We want some skylights in these locations, and so you'll see the we have parapets along the outside of this portal, and the parapets also just give it more a stronger form for the overall image of the house. Let me go continue with the main house. We can come back and look at the accessory dwelling unit. So here's the west elevation portal. We're raising the parapet along this side so that the portal could be higher. It's rather low along here, but we're wanting to maintain something of the interesting edge, top edge of that parapet. So that's somewhat mimicked here in the new version. But parapets, viga columns, corbels, and you'll see we have a heat pump that has a condenser up here on the roof, and so one of the reasons to raise the parapet along this side is just so that that's hidden more. And of course, this is the side you would see most. And so here's a couple of perspective views. That's from the front.
Well, if I can interrupt you, when you say this is the side you'll see the most, if you can actually identify it as north, south, east, west elevation.
The west elevation, street facing.
Thank you.
And here's a view looking down at the top. So you just see where we have the heat pump condenser toward the rear of the building so that it's less visible there. Raising the parapets along here, and here are the skylights that we're proposing. So there's the west facade, the street facing facade as it is now. And so the portal will run from about here and wrap around over to here. And I think it'll contribute to the look of the house and will fit nicely in this part of Santa Fe. Let me go back and look at the accessory dwelling unit. The new windows were approved at the meeting in October, and in looking at this and at this I was trying to enlarge this, but looking at this facade, we thought it would benefit from having a small portal here. So this is a shed roof with a with corrugated roofing and square posts in this case, no corbels, running the length of the building here. So that's, and then on the main house, we are replacing windows and doors all around, adding some new doors at the back. And so again, the windows look like this from the street view on this side here. So with divided lights, the existing windows don't have divided lights except for this one on the north. So we're in compliance with design standards with these windows as well. So that's what we're up to. And I'm glad to take some questions.
Are you proposing any solar panels?
We are thinking about solar panels, and that was some of the reason for raising the parapet. I mean, that we do believe we're going to have solar panels at least through this area.
So is the parapet going to hide the solar panels?
Yes, it will. There'll be solar panels at the very low angle commonly used of 10 degrees. And of course, we'll make sure that those are invisible to the public.
Okay, so the solar panels and I'm going to think that it's going to be low profile skylights will not be seen.
That's right.
Thank you. Let me see if anyone else has any questions or comments. I don't see any hands raised, so I will take it to the public. Anybody from the public wishing to comment in reference to this project? I don't see anyone, so I will entertain a motion. We have 3 people with their hands up. Identify yourself and start making a motion, any one of you.
Okay, I'll go. Member Bienvenu. So thank you for this application. I do think it's a very nice improvement to the property, and I think you've done a really wonderful job in the design. With that, in case 2021-004611 HDRB 107 Victoria Street, I move to approve the project as submitted.
Larson seconds.
Thank you. Anything further? No. Member Katz, did you have something?
No.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Member Beachside,
Yes.
Member Bienvenu,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you.
That worked well.
I thought it worked well as well. I appreciate being able to control that from my point of view. I feel like I could do a better job. So thank you, board.
Okay, we're trying out something new. Let's see how it works, and we'll get comments from board members at our February the 22nd meeting. Okay, we'll move on to the next case, which is located at 913.5 Old Santa Fe Trail, Old Pecos Trail, excuse me, and this is a non-contributing building. This is Daniel's case. Daniel.
I just realized
You have
I
the
need to contact the applicant because she is supposed to call in. If you could give me a moment to call her, would that be okay? I'm sorry.
Sure. Can Carly do that?
Carly, well, let's see, I have to,
Or just do it.
I'll text Carly the number.
I can do that. My video is off right now. My internet is unstable, but I can certainly make a phone call.
If you would just tell the applicant to call in now. Oops.
Sorry.
They should have sent you a text message.
Or
Okay.
just do it.
I'll text Carly the number. Okay, I will go ahead with my staff report.
Please.
In this case, I will be presenting, although there's not a whole lot to present. The applicant has asked me to present. 913.5 B Old Pecos Trail is in the downtown and east side historic district. This is Old Pecos Trail and Old Santa Fe Trail. Is here on the north side. And the property is off the street. This is the view of the building. It was a red tagged project. This is an already existing non-historic, non-contributing casita, and the applicant constructed this portal shown in the diagram and in the photograph. And here is the side view of that same portal. Here you can see it's constructed from wood and includes this new lamp on the main building. Here's a close-up of the portal detail. Other than that, those are the two main points: the metal lamp and the portal, 7 by 20 feet in dimension. Staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds that the application complies with the design and district standards.
Thank you, Daniel. Daniel, in reference to the location of this project, there's a big building in front of it. It's the 1 Hour Martinizing Cleaners.
Yes.
And is there public visibility of this project?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I think it's tucked back behind this
No,
building.
I don't think there's any visibility of this.
When we were on the field trip today, I believe that there is no public visibility. Thank you. Did we get the applicant?
The applicant was able to, they are in the attendees list. I've got their phone number up there so we can allow them to speak, and they will, they're on.
Oh, okay, so there will be 2 persons that will be speaking?
It's a mother and a daughter. The daughter is assisting the elderly mother.
Oh, okay. If you can swear both of these persons in, Melissa?
Sure. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimonies you're about to give are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I believe they're muted. I see, oh, there we go.
Okay. This is Margaret Roybal, and I do affirm.
Hi, Mark. Okay, thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, this is Margaret Roybal. I reside in Pecos, New Mexico. It's Highway 50, 31 Rincon del Cielo. And the property we're talking about is the house we have at 913.5B Old Pecos Trail, Santa Fe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Roybal, do you have anything? You heard staff's report. Do you have anything further to add?
Not at this time, no.
Oh, okay. And was your daughter going to speak, or you're speaking, you're the only speaker this evening?
She will speak sometimes because I'm not a computer person, and you know, she handles most of the paperwork and stuff.
Okay, well, let me see if any board members have questions for you.
All right.
I don't think anyone has a question. This is a pretty straightforward project, but let me see if anyone from the public wishes to comment. Just a minute. And I don't see anyone from the public that has a hand raised. So I will entertain a motion from a board member. If you would identify yourself, board member, and go ahead and make a motion. Member Larson?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I just wanted to say that I really like the hand-carved details of the corbels. I probably would not have chosen the galvanized metal, but since it's already been built and it's within, you know, the district standards, I would like to make a motion. So in case number 2021-004612 HDRB 913.5B Old Pecos Trail, I would like to approve the project following staff's recommendation.
Katz will second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Member Beachside?
Yes.
Member Bienvenue?
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz?
Yes.
Member Larson?
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Ms. Roybal. We will move on to the next case, which is located at 948 Santander, Camino Santander. This is a non-contributing building. And Daniel, it is your case, so may we hear your report, please?
Oops, that's the wrong way. So 948 Camino Santander, as the chair has said, is a non-contributing, non-historic structure. This is the site on Camino Santander that slopes down away from the street, so that the front is ostensibly single story, but at the rear we have this two-story structure with a deck on the upper story. There is another side view, and this is the rear. On the away from the street, there's a greenhouse. That's a proposal of the lamps and the colors. So the applicant proposes to add an addition on the front of the house here on the right side. The left side is a portal, and to construct a deck and portal over 2 stories, and in the rear a pergola. Here's the elevation of the rear. This is the pergola shown here. The windows will be replaced. This is the side view. This is the existing below with that deck and a small roof here. That roof, portal roof, will be extended and the deck expanded to be over this 2 levels. Here in the front, you see the addition. So that's the proposal. These are the colors that are proposed and the proposed light. I stand for questions, and the applicant should also be available. Oh, and sorry, the staff recommends approval of the proposed project, finding that it meets the design and district standards.
Have we lost the chair?
Looks like we have.
So why don't we then move on to the applicant, if the applicant would like to present?
The applicant will be making their own presentation, but would stand for questions.
Okay, I can swear in the applicant. Who would that be?
Is it Cedric Chastain? I'm not sure who's in the list there.
Yes, I'm asking to
I see him.
unmute.
Hi, this is Cedric Chastanet.
Hi there. Let me go ahead and swear you in. Do you
Okay.
swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Cedric Chastanet at 948 Camino Santander in Santa Fe.
Okay. Mr. Chesney, do you have anything that you would like to add to the presentation that Daniel made?
No, not really. I think we've tried to really minimize the impact of the changes, and also the house was in pretty heavy disrepair when we bought it. So we're sort of eager to see the ability to actually make some changes, particularly around some of the windows which are broken and non-operating. So that's really the only comment I have.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone from the board have any questions they'd like to ask the applicant? Okay, seeing none of that. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this case?
I have Stephanie Bedonato.
Can I add one small comment?
Yes, please.
Just looking at the staff report, I wanted to also mention that there will be a yard wall constructed at the street to the maximum allowable height, which includes a wooden gate.
Okay, that would be good. Okay, Stephanie?
Yes, hi. Thank you. Stephanie Beninatto, PO Box 1601, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I wonder what the allowable height is for that wall because it could pretty much obscure the front side of that building, which again, I'm taking that it's the one side, the side that appears to be a one-story that's facing the street. And also, since they are doing so much renovation on the other sides, I'm sorry if I'm not following this, but I thought I heard that they wanted to add on to that front-facing facade. And I really wonder what the purpose of adding on to that, because again, to me, that would significantly change that facade. And I kind of do think it fits in with the streetscape there on Camino Santander. Thank you.
Sorry, everybody, my screen went black. So
Welcome
I'm
back.
sure the vice chair took over as he should.
Yeah. Okay.
Like me to respond to that, or?
Well, this isn't a historic house, so the facade doesn't need to be approved. And your testimony was that the proposed design does meet the standards, and that's really the question, isn't it?
Well, excuse me, but I was saying that I didn't think it was in harmony with the rest of the streetscape, and that more simple facade would be. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I cede back to you, Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you. That was public comment, I'm assuming.
I don't know that they may not be. Is there any other public comment?
I'm assuming that was public comment. Anybody else for public comment? I don't see anyone else. So I'm going to assume that the discussion all took place and we are ready for a motion.
I would make a motion, Madam Chair.
Please do so.
In case number 2021-004613, HDRB at 948 Camino Santander, I would move to approve the application as submitted.
Bienvenue seconds.
Thank you. Bienvenue seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Member Beachside,
Yes.
Member Bienvenue,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson.
No.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much. We move to case number 5, which is located at 201 Washington Street. This is a contributing building and it is Daniel's case. Daniel, your report, please.
Madam Chair, so in this case, we're moving back to our new tandem format. I will present a little bit of background on the building. It's in the downtown and east side historic district. Formerly constructed as a gas station. This is the building. This is looking west. This is the side entrance in essence, and looking east from across the street, and looking directly north through the drive-in. The building was originally constructed by a Sinclair Oil, which had a particular color scheme, which was white and green. That is visible here on these tiles, where the painted faux terracotta is peeling to reveal the original green enamel. The building was originally painted white. That has been shown in this staff report from 1992. The accents were originally green and the building was white. At that time, the applicant came before the board for a renovation, and the board worked, or rather deferred to staff to find a color scheme that they believed matched the district, which is the color scheme that we now have. We now have an applicant coming forward who proposes to make mostly interior changes, but to install signs and paint, and using the original color scheme of the structure. The applicant has applied for an exception for style to accommodate colors that are not earth tone, and the staff recommends approval of the application and recommends that the exception criteria have been met. So I'm now ready to hand over to the applicant.
Okay, let me ask if anyone on the board wants to ask any questions of you. And it appears not. And who is the applicant?
Let's come have a look here. Yvonne Geisler.
Mr. Geisler, are you there?
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair and Board.
Good evening.
Hi, I will
would you
go ahead and
swear
swear
him in, please?
Sure thing.
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
sure. Yvonne Geisler, 804 Camino Acoma, Santa Fe.
Thank you.
Mr. Geisler, to me, this is a very interesting case. I believe you want to take this service station, this filling station, to look like what it did, I think, back in the 1930s. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, tell us whatever else you want to tell us about this project.
Should I present our PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Oh, please do.
Okay. Also, I'd like to ask my client is also on the call. Would he be able to present at any point or make any comments?
Yes, the client would also, anyone that is presenting has to get sworn in.
Should we do that now?
Perhaps we need to swear that person in at this time.
Okay.
Is the
Okay, who is that
person in
person?
as an attendee?
Yes, the name is Matthew Remby or Matt Remby.
Okay. Oh, I see a J Remby. Matthew J. Remby. If you can swear this person in.
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Matthew Remby, 5207 Guadalupe Trail, Northwest, Albuquerque.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
good evening.
Yes.
And thank you for the opportunity to present this. Yeah, this was kind of a surprise to us. We wanted to activate the space as for a retail space that like we have down in Albuquerque at Los Poblanos, and had been waiting for an interesting building to do that. It wasn't until after we had leased the space and started digging into the history that we discovered this Sinclair history. That actually came from the Historic Design Review Board's findings and archival research back in 1992. So right now, this slide says that, actually go to the last slide, says that it's not historically aligned. Certainly the colorways that are chosen right now are historically aligned with the neighborhood, but the bank and some of its fixtures, the night sky fixtures they have in there that are night sky polluting fixtures, as well as some of the bank kind of usage just was misaligned with the history. They kind of, they obviously, the previous owner covered up a lot of the original history of the building. So next slide. And Daniel covered this, but that tile underneath, we had read what were steel and actually went in, and it's actually real terracotta tile. They just happened to be glazed green in 1934. There were dozens of these all over the Southwest of the United States in this style, this Mission Revival auto service station style. There's very few that are remaining in this shape in the United States. So it's just a really unique opportunity to return it back to its original colorways. So how would we do that and still be friendly to the neighborhood based on the palette that exists down there? So we put a lot of thought into that. Next slide, Vaughn. Obviously, the colors on here are a little bit bright. On the next slide, I'll show you kind of how the tones are a little bit different, but this was just kind of getting back to what this Sinclair oil color palette was. It also refers to some of the signage, because this was old gas station. In fact, even back then in the 1935, they also sold farm implements and tractor implements. So kind of talks to getting back to the agricultural history at that time as well. Next slide. We threw the stucco color. It's right above that says the El Rey. It's not the white there. It's just right above. It's a creamier color. We've used it before down at Los Poblanos because we were trying to, mimic the original 1930s dairies buildings that have aged over 80 years. And so they have a nice creamy patina. Putting white buildings in New Mexico obviously has its disadvantages on the glare, but we've done this before with this colorway. You can see the white trim right next to the stucco or the white windows. That's not even a true real white. That's something called what's that called? Swiss coffee. So it's not even a really bright white. So that it's a kind of a dirtier patinaed white that looks like it's aged over time. And actually El Rey calls it ash, which makes it referring like it's got some gray in it. So it actually does tone way down and is complementary to the buildings around it, we feel. And together with that green, just really talks to that kind of historic preservation division study that all about Route 66 and recognizing the road related structures of motels and gas structures and buildings like that. Next slide. Really no other material changes to the building. Everything is there. So this just kind of shows where we would put signage. There are some bad kind of commercial lights there that we would just switch out to lights that are more appropriate to the period. Otherwise, no material changes on the exterior, architecturally speaking. Just another facade. This little patio was not activated with the bank, and it will be reactivated with the use that we're proposing, which is a tasting room that's part of the retail experience. So the guests will be able customers will be able to use that space, and activates the street more. And last slide, just threw down a typology here just because we just were looking at all the typography and the signage that was done back then. How do you do it and not return it back to, I think there was something like, 15, 20 signs on some of these old gas stations. The limitation of 3 signs was good in this case. And so we have 2 facades of this up above, and then we have a little street sign over on Marcy, right at that, the square one right at that kind of patio entrance. So speaking to that history without overdoing it from a signage standpoint. And that was our goal. Is there a last slide there, Yvonne?
No, that was it.
So I think we were surprised about this history too, kind of took us by surprise to be proposing something like this, but it was to paint over those tiles again seemed like a punch to the gut from a historic preservation standpoint. I didn't want to paint those red again, so we were on returning it to its original colorway.
Okay, anything further?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, let me see what board members have questions or comments for you. Member Larson.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for doing your research on the building and really investigating. It's really important to sort of acknowledge this period and Santa Fe's legacy of travel and of motor travel in particular. I think we have a lot of really interesting parts of our districts that are sort of masked at the moment, as we've seen in some previous cases. And I really appreciate this idea of sort of bringing it back to those roots and sort of exploring that as sort of a business opportunity using an older building. So I just wanted to compliment you guys for that, because you could easily pick any other place, and it's really I think admirable to pick this site and tie it together between the travel history between Albuquerque and Santa Fe on the road. So I really like that sort of metaphor, and also the proposals for the color changes are, I think, really attractive and different, but still, again, true to the origins of this building. I think we've seen sort of a similar interpretation at El Rey Court on Cerrillos, which isn't in the district, but it's shown how sort of polishing up these older buildings, but not old in terms of Santa Fe old, is really a great way to enhance our history and represent more periods of time. So I'm really excited about this project, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Larson. Member Beachside.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is so exciting. I think this is such a great match of an applicant and a building, and really I do echo what Flynn said about the amount of research and the way that you intend to honor the history of the building with the changes you're making. I just had one question about, just to confirm, is the stucco cementitious that's proposed?
Yes, that was proposed as cementitious.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Beachside. Member Benvenue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I really like this project. So it presents an interesting issue, which is you have a building that was non-conforming when the ordinance was passed, and then it was made conforming more or less through renovations. And now the application is a request to return it to a non-conforming status, which, just to make sure we're following the ordinance properly, it seems to me that that circumstance is implicitly covered under the, what is it, section A6 of 14-5.2, which is for non-conforming structures, which provides that we're not to permit changes to non-conforming structures other than to make them conforming, unless, and this is what I think applies here, unless the board finds that it has specific historical or architectural value. And I think this project fits squarely within that, even though what we're talking about is not altering it, but actually turning it to its non-conforming status. So I think this is great. I think it will be a nicer building than the attempt to Santa Fe-ize it in what was done previously. But I wonder if you could go just a little bit farther. I noticed that the curb stone where the pumps were really stands out to me. And I know that in the original photographs you showed, those were also painted green, if I'm not mistaken. Wondering if that would be something that is on your radar. And of course, those safety posts are really glaring and completely detract from the building. And I'm wondering if there's any way to make those more harmonious with the building.
If I could jump in.
Sure.
Yes, please.
Part of what was missing from the proposal was a removal of the excess amount of bollards that we're seeing on site currently. We would want to keep anything in place that would protect the building, but if we could move away from the bright yellow, that'd be preferable, something more in harmony with the building and colors.
Right, I would completely agree with that. So I'm not sure exactly who has jurisdiction over that ultimate decision, but as much as they can be made consistent with the original building and yet still satisfy whatever safety standards are necessary would be, I'm sure, preferable to everybody.
I think that's the goal, and your comment on the cement is something we could definitely look at. The cement I just don't know if it would take paint. I mean, it's the oldest cement. It has a wonderful patina that matches everything around it, but it would be kind of a question of how to get it to adhere. But I like that idea.
Great. Well, thank you for the work you've done on this project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Benvenu, and thank you for bringing up those points. I like the points about the ballards without a doubt. Thank you. Member Katz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is terrific. It's wonderful. There are a number of old gas stations around the downtown, and you often can say, oh, that used to be a gas station, I bet. And it's kind of nice when it actually keeps the look of the gas station. And I think that's a very positive thing. I don't think that this really clashes with Santa Fe style. I do shudder if somebody would say that those buildings on the plaza that were originally Italianate, we want to return them to their original. I don't know that we could get away with that or would want to do that, but I think this does add to sort of the whole feeling of Santa Fe. And thank you so much for doing such a great job on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Katz. Attorney Rubali.
Thank you. Mr. Bienvenu, can I trouble you to give me that code citation again that you cited about the non-conforming?
14-5.2 A6.
A6, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. Member Larson, did you have something further, or did you forget to put your hand out?
No, I did put my hand back up. I just had one more comment. And yeah, thank you, Member Bienvenu, for pointing out the posts and curbing. I also wanted to just add to the record that the paving is, probably also of the period, and that I don't know that we have like any control over including that in our comments, but I think it would be good to preserve the the exposed aggregate of that paving, and just call that out also as a feature that would be historic. Thanks.
Thank you. I will take it to public comment. Let's see, Stephanie Beninato has been sworn in. Stephanie, you have the floor.
Thank you. Stephanie Beninato, PO Box 1601, Santa Fe. I too appreciate having this building brought back to its historic point of being a gas station. The bank was okay there, but I think this gives it a little more connection to its history. And the green tile, I mean, that's what was there, and it's not so overwhelming that it would affect the streetscape. I can't really tell where the gates are going from the drawings because they were so light that they were really illegible almost on the screen. And I just really want to make sure that it's not going to interfere with the building reading like it was, that is a gas station. Because I think that's a really important consideration in approving this. And even though it's, it's a wonderful project, et cetera, as everyone has said, I still have to wonder how this meets hardship, however. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a native of Santa Fe, and downtown, I have to tell you, downtown had a lot of gas stations. It seems like every corner had a gas station, lots of gas stations, even though some of you might think I remember the original from 1934. I'm not quite that old, but I do remember this as a Gulf station later on. And I think the project is very well done. Member Benvenu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm prepared to make a motion.
And I do want to remind the maker of the motion that there are exceptions that the applicant should meet.
Correct.
And if you can incorporate that to your motion.
Sure, thank you. Case 2022-004673 HDRB 201 Washington Street. I move that the project be approved as submitted, taking into account the comments of the board with respect to the possibility of reducing the size of the bollards, as well as painting the cement if possible, also to match the original. And I'm speaking of the curbing. In addition, I would move that the board adopt findings that the proposal that the applicant has conclusively demonstrated that the exceptions requested comply with the following criteria. They do not damage the character of the district, and on the contrary, enhance the character of the district. Number two, are required to prevent not a hardship to the applicant, which I don't think is applicable, but rather an injury to the public welfare, which would result in the event that the project was not permitted to be returned to its original, close to its original form. And three, I don't believe is applicable because that applies to residential properties. But to the extent it does apply, I would say that it strengthens, a finding should be issued that it strengthens the unique heterogeneous character of the city by providing a full range of design options to ensure that business owners can continue to exist with and pursue their businesses within the historic districts.
Thank you. Is there a second to this motion?
Larson seconds.
Is there anything further to add? The only thing that I would add is if it's possible to have another color other than yellow. You indicated, Member Benvenu, to have the bollards lowered, but yeah. I'm wondering if through the city code, if they'll permit another color.
Absolutely, I agree with that. As being one of the concerns that the board raised was also as to the color, if it could be made more consistent with the original building.
Thank you.
That be part of the motion?
Should be, did you say, Daniel?
Just wondering, maybe this is a question for the city attorney, if that is part of the motion. I'm not sure if the bollards are a traffic element or part of the structure.
Well, that's why I was only saying they should, only asking that they take into account the concerns rather than making a condition of approval, because I don't know what the actual requirements that the city might impose on those structures would be. So I defer to that.
Okay.
Okay. We just might need some guidance from the city attorney as to what should be included in the findings of the motion in regard to bollards.
That would probably take me a little while to look up. I don't know if that's in the code. I'd have to do some research.
I think we'll speak about it.
May I comment on something? This is the applicant.
Yes.
Chairwoman, is that possible?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Or Madam Chair, I should say. That's I was a Port Cochere and they actually used it as a parking space. So we could actually just remove them entirely. We just have to make sure, there's something, whether it's a planter or something that keeps someone from backing into that corner of that. But we're certainly happy to change it to the same color scheme. The only thing I'm just worried about on the cement is to make it green, you're going to have to go with a very thick industrial, probably high gloss paint to stick to that cement. And I actually think it would detract from the overall scheme. So I would ask if we could maybe omit that portion of it, even though we're happy to explore to see if it can be done.
Again, the way I tried to frame the motion was just to ask that the applicant take those issues into consideration, not that they be a condition of approval.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly, thank you. And you know what, just as another point, if they're going to keep the ballards, the plaza has had different colored ballards, not yellow. But anyway, I think that's the way Member Benvenu stated his motion. It gives options. So I will ask for a roll call vote, please.
Member Beachside?
Yes.
Member Bienvenue?
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz?
Yes.
Member Larson?
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you very much and good luck with that project.
Thank you very much.
We are at the last case for this evening that's located at 1224.5 Cerro Gordo. This is a contributing house. And Daniel, would you give us your report, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. 1224.5 Cerro Gordo Road is on Cerro Gordo Road. Here is the location. There's this point where Cerro Gordo splits in two. South Armio is here, and we're talking about this property.
We are not seeing anything on the
Oh,
screen.
sorry. Can I share the screen? There we are.
Thank you. There you go.
This is the location. I wanted to say a word about the natural grade of the land, which is decisive in this case. Land slopes down towards the river. It generally is sloping up in the direction of my finger. I think that's north. So it's sloping down to the south. And the lots have been leveled here for the construction of the buildings. This is the house that we're talking about that should be added to. And here is a view from the street. What you see here is the Cerro Gordo street here. And there's a parallel path, actually an easement, that existed prior to the construction of the street. However, the general slope of the land is downward, so that we can presume that the natural grade of the street is approximately at the level of the street. The houses behind the viewer, so to speak, being even lower on the natural grade. So I think the presumption is that at the time of construction of these buildings, this easement was leveled through raising and flattening of this land here. The proposal here is, I'm going to segue over to let the applicant discuss, but because there are some slightly complicated things, I'll make a first pass and then let the applicant fill in. This is the existing non-contributing house and a garage of close to 800 square feet is proposed. This is the proposed east elevation. The natural grade of what is now Cerro Gordo lies only a few inches below here. And a fairly consistent slope is imagined to be the natural grade before construction of the houses. The hillside goes up like this, so that the grade, approximately the natural grade, is where also the entrance of the garage would be. It extends up 15 feet 3 inches to its maximum height, which is at this rear portion of the structure. And due to the change in height of somewhat over 2 feet, an allowance is requested for the additional height above the maximum allowable of 13 feet 8 inches. In addition, the applicant is asking for this railing, which is constructed out of steel and has 3 horizontal wires. So there is some overlap to be expected. Now I'm going to hand the microphone, so to speak, to Mr. Roach, the applicant. But he will be, I believe, using these same slides.
Okay, Daniel, before we do go to Mr. Roach, I indicated this was a contributing house. Is it a contributing or non-contributing?
I'm afraid there was a mistake in the report. The applicant showed documentation that at last hearing, this board was informed that it was a non-contributing structure.
Okay, and just for clarification purposes, the natural grade is at the street level?
Well, the natural grade is a slope. So this is the natural grade at the street, and one can presume that the natural grade at the house, or the grade of the house, is also approximately the natural grade, and that the original landscape sloped fairly evenly down from that position of the house down to where the street is. That's as close as we can approximate the condition. Does that make sense?
Not totally.
Well, it's now it's essentially stepped, right?
Right.
And and likely before there was construction here, it was a natural slope down the hill. So now there is a step.
Okay. And then they leveled it.
They leveled it, or most likely they raised this portion and created a step, created a terrace.
Okay.
Let me show that also here. This is the slope of the hill, and what they did is created a step for the building to sit on, a terrace.
Thank you, Daniel. That clarifies it a little bit better for me. Board members, does anyone have questions for Daniel? I don't see any hands raised. Oh, yes, Member Katz.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with this project. I am not comfortable with guessing what this was all like. And particularly if you go on the other side of South Armijo Lane, that's to the very right of that picture, there's an open field. And I don't know what the grading is on that field, how much it comes down. But what is quite clear to me, and it doesn't show in this picture, but it would show if you did another
Checking out over here.
Yeah, I'm talking, yeah, that whole area on the right. Where are we?
There's the house. Here's South Armijo.
Well, point to the house.
This is the house, the red. Here's South Armijo Lane.
Yeah, and then right to the right of South Armijo Lane there, that whole big field that has not been disturbed. So that would give you some better than just a guess. The other thing that I found interesting is that right in front of where the garage is going, there's a juniper tree, an old juniper tree. You can tell from its size and its twistiness that it's clearly, and you can see it on the right there, right side of the photo. That's been there a long time. And, you know, whether and that's at the level where that car is parked and that access easement is. It's all a level above the road. And you told us that that road was done after that easement was done. And I could see that that could have been graded down for the houses that are on the far side of the road that are all way newer houses. So I don't know what the answer is. I'm happy to go with what we have, but I'm uncomfortable with the guesses that it's this or that or the other thing, because I don't think that the evidence really shows that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Katz. Would you swear in the applicant, Melissa?
Yes. Do you swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jesse Roach, and my address is 1224 and a half Cerro Gordo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roach. You have the floor and tell us about this project.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. The one sort of additional sort of pieces of clarifying information I'd like to provide are that I grew up in this home and we moved there, and I think about 1978, and it was always at this level. When I grew up there was no development to the south, and all the traffic, as Mr. Schwab indicated, all the traffic did come in on that upper level. It was along a private lane. It's always sort of dropped down since that time, and my understanding is that the house was probably built in the late 30s or the early 40s, the original part of the structure, and I would guess that same sort of level was there when the house was first built. I guess the other piece that I would add is that the garage as proposed, I don't intend it to be any higher than the existing parapets of the house. And I apologize that in these drawings, it comes up a little bit above it. I was working with the architect and I didn't understand that this measurement would occur down to the lower roadway. And so I said, well, no, I think we can fit it so that it matches the existing parapets, but it looks like it's 6 inches high now, and let's move forward. And if it turns out we can't fit it to the existing parapets, we're covered. I didn't anticipate that this was going to raise an alarm at this juncture. So that's my intention, is to match the existing parapets of the home.
Anything else that you wish to tell us?
I understand that I need to ask for an exception related to the deck railing, and I guess the materials that were recommended to me as not requiring an exception were wrought iron or wood, and I feel that the intent of this railing is to provide safety with the minimal amount of visible disruption, so that I and my neighbors can still sort of enjoy views that are not blocked by the deck. I feel that if that railing were constructed of wood or wrought iron, it would draw visual attention away from the addition itself.
Can you give us the measurements of the height of your proposed railing?
Yes, it would be 3 feet above the inner deck. So the parapet itself will form some amount of that height, and then the remaining up to 3 feet would be provided by the railing.
So the dotted line here shows, I think, the floor of the deck. So
Correct.
there's a parapet, and then the remaining height up to the required 3 feet is the railing.
Okay. May we see the elevations of this project, please?
This is the front elevation. North face or south elevation. And then this is the east elevation. So it's around 9 feet 8 inches close to the street and then it steps back and up to 15 feet 3 inches.
What is the open space that is going to remain there in front?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
On that,
Sorry.
that would be south side.
It's 20 feet from the road.
Oh, yeah, is that what you mean, the distance to the road?
Yes, there's going to be an open space there, which is 20 feet from the street.
Mr. Roach, what's the distance
Okay,
from the road?
that's clarifying what I'm asking.
I'm sorry, I'd have to pull up the plans and I don't have them open. I can get you that answer in the next minute or so.
In the meantime, Member Katz has a question.
Yeah, can you put up the west facade of the addition? Oh, that works on the bottom. And I just want clarification. They show some steps under the triple window there. Yeah, those steps. That's inside the garage stepping up to the shop, is it not?
That's correct.
And then you have the stairway that goes up to the deck. And it shows it coming down to that level, but that's not right, isn't it? Outside, all along the wall there, it's going to be the level it is now, which is the level of the house, essentially, maybe a step down at most.
Yes, you are correct.
So you're not going to be bringing it all the way down. That will be less long or not steps. Not those steps, the other steps, Daniel.
Steps? Or
No. Going up to the deck. You don't see steps there. You just see the wall hiding the stairway.
These steps.
Yeah, those steps. Yeah.
Yes, those will start at the current grade. There will be no excavation where those are starting.
Right. That's kind of what I thought. That will make it sort of look nicer too. And in the back, there's not a door or anything facing the little addition that's there. I don't know what room that is, but in back of the to the north, directly to the north of in that area. That'll be a little courtyard now or something, become a little courtyard.
Yes, that's correct. That would be kind of a courtyard area.
Okay. At the level it is now.
Correct.
Fabulous. Thank you.
I
apologize, Madam Chair. I did look at the plans, and the garage is more than the 20 feet away from the street. It's more like 25 feet to the front of the garage.
Okay, thank you. Member Benvenue?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just, I guess, more comments than questions. First of all, Mr. Rudge, it's great that you're doing this project. It's a really nice project. It's fantastic. You're living in a home you grew up in this great neighborhood. So all of that's really nice to see. I am stuck though on the railing. And the reason is because of the exception criteria that we just went through in the prior case. And I feel that our hands are tied with respect to these criteria as they're applied to this particular application. It seems to me that, first of all, staff has determined, and I don't see any reason to disagree with it, that the exceptions are required because our design standards would require the railing to be either wood or wrought iron. And therefore, our duty is to apply the exception criteria, which is, we've said repeatedly, are quite stringent and require a conclusive finding of fact, and that the applicant has conclusively demonstrated that the exception criteria have been met. And the ones that I just don't see how they could be met in this particular case are specifically the hardship criteria and the continuing to reside in the in the historic districts criteria, so the second and third, particularly the hardship criteria. I've just failed to see that wanting to have a better view or less obstructed view would be a sufficient ground to alter the very specific styles that are set forth in the ordinance. Although I do recognize that railings are not specifically called out, I think our history and reading the ordinance as a whole makes clear that, as staff concluded, that the railings would need to be in some material other than what's proposed. So hardship, I just don't understand that a hardship could be found in this particular case because of a view. And if we found that in this case, I don't see how we could ever limit ourselves again to ever not permitting this exact same type of railing, which would in essence be rewriting the ordinance, which we as a board are not entitled to do. And I think that applies as well to the third criteria, which is presenting strengthening the heterogeneous character by providing a full range of options for the purpose, and those are my words, to ensure that residents can continue to reside within the districts. Again, I don't see how that has any applicability here because it's not necessary to have a better view through the railing in order to continue to reside in this particular district. So unfortunately, I would find that we're not able to approve the exceptions.
In reference to the railing, because there's
just the railing I'm referring to. Yeah.
Right, because there's another exception that the applicant has to meet in reference to the height. Vice Chair Katz, did you have something further?
Yeah, I recognize the wisdom of what Member Bienvenu has said. I also don't think that wrought iron needs to be terribly visible. We just had a railing installed on the steps in front of our house, and it's wrought iron. And the top part of the railing is, I would say, as thin as the cables that he is proposing. And I think it can be done with wrought iron and still have it as little visible as possible. The graphic that the applicant submitted showing the house on Calle La Peña, I'm really happy that that railing on that deck is as little visible as possible. I think it really, really helps. And I would ask the applicant to perhaps explore the possibility of doing a very thin wrought iron railing on the top, and on the where we would have the cables go, that I think could be done in a way that would not be materially different and would avoid the conundrum that that Member Bienvenu has raised. Thank you.
Mr. Roche, did you wish to comment on these comments that have been made?
I do appreciate the comments that have been made. I haven't seen a wrought iron railing that is as visually undisruptive as the railings with horizontal cables that I've seen. I will have to see what that means. Ultimately, if I feel like that railing is going to be visually disruptive, I will have to consider not doing a roof deck, which would be a shame because as the houses have grown up around me, that view from on top of that deck would be certainly something wonderful to have. And I understand that I'm very privileged to live where I live. I certainly would love to be able to add that amenity to this addition if I can. But I certainly, if the board finds that they can't grant an exception for that railing, I will look into the options for a wrought iron railing and then decide whether to proceed with the with the deck or not.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Member Beachside.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe staff or board can help me recall. I believe we've approved railings like this before, and certainly Calle de la Peña shows that it exists in this. I mean, is that the same neighborhood? I'm not sure how close that is to what we're talking about, but do you recall like a case where we were considering a glass railing around the top of a building? And this is non-contributing. Maybe Daniel can comment on what we've done in the
Daniel
past.
has his hand raised. Daniel?
Well, we did have a railing recently for a deaf applicant. I can't remember what street that was. It's near.
I'm sorry,
Santa Fe
Daniel,
Trail.
repeat what you just said, please.
Repeated?
Yes.
We had an applicant that was deaf, and he had a railing proposed exactly in the same position on top of his garage, and wanted to have the minimal visual obstruction for communication purposes. That's the one that I remember.
And that one that's coming back to me. Where was that located?
It's in that same area. It's just off of Old Santa Fe Trail.
And did we approve that by exception?
Yes, it required an exception.
Okay. And was it non-contributing? Do you recall?
It was a non-contributing structure.
Thank you.
Member Benvenu?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to say the same thing. Daniel beat me to it, that I do recall that we approved an exception. I thought it was off of the Acequia Madre, but I'm not sure. And the exception was specifically based on the fact that both the applicants, the husband and wife, were both deaf and needed visual contact in order to be able to communicate to one another. So they specifically requested the cabling for that purpose. That was the grounds for the approval.
Thank you. Mr. Roush, give us the measurements of your proposed railing again, the height and the length of it.
Okay, the height would be of the metal, I'm going to estimate would be 2.5 feet. I don't know exactly how high the parapet will come above the finished internal deck, but so that exact detail hasn't been totally finalized in the design. And then in terms of the size of the railing, it is the width of the garage at the front is, why am I? I'm sorry, I'm looking at the plans, but it's not called out there and I don't have a ruler in front of me. Let me see if I can find that.
In the meantime, I'm going to ask for public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to comment on this project? Stephanie Benvenuto has her hand up and she's been sworn in.
Yes, hi, thank you. I agree with the board members who think that there should be wrought iron being used on this porch rather than whatever other material is being proposed. I don't think that it really will interfere with the view. And even though it's a contributing building, I think that it's more in harmony with that area to have that, whether you've granted other exceptions or not. And what I'm surprised at is that nobody's commented on the fact that the garage is like right there in your view from the street. And I kind of chuckled to myself when the applicant said something about it would distract, that kind of railing would distract from what you would see. But in my opinion, maybe you want to distract from seeing a garage. And you have required people like on Canyon Road, you really strongly urged the designer, who is Eric Enfield, to put the garage to the side so that you wouldn't see the doors. I wonder if that's an option here, because really it's overwhelming. It's the first thing you see. It's not, I mean, sorry, garages aren't historic. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'll take it back to the board. I don't see anyone else from the public wanting to comment.
Madam Chair, I would estimate that the length of the railing on top of the parapet would be between 40 and 50 feet.
40 to 50 feet. Okay. It appears that there are no more questions or comments. Maybe so. Let's see. Member Katz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That sounds awfully wide. Is it a two-car garage?
It is. The garage door is designed at 18 feet and the front of the garage is 23 feet wide.
So the railing would be like 23 feet in front, and then it angles back over the to the stairway, and then
correct. So it would be 23 feet in front, and then it goes back about 15 feet to the clear story, and on one side, and back maybe 10 feet to the stairway on the other side.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion and to approve everything except the railing at this point. And I think that maybe needs a little bit more thought, a little bit more discussion. And if that seems like a way forward to folks, I am willing to make a motion.
Yes, you have the floor.
Okay, in case number 2021-004614 HDRB at 1224.5 Cerro Gordo Road, I would move to approve the project as submitted and without making a finding at this juncture whether the proposed railing around the roof deck on the garage meets the exception criteria. So I would not have us approve that at this point. And hopefully that the applicant can come back with perhaps a wrought iron design or other thoughts.
Point of clarification. For a wrought iron design that meets the standards, can that be something that staff approves, or should it come directly to the board?
I would be comfortable with having staff approve it. Because we know from what the applicant has said, he would want a minimalist version, not a curly Q big fancy version. And I think that might cause us a little bit of heartburn, but a very simplistic wrought iron, I don't think would. But that's up to the rest of the board, how they feel about that. I'd be curious to hear their thoughts.
Vice Chair Katz, there's also another exception. There were two exceptions in this case. So you need to address the other exception.
The other exception was the extra height for
right.
It's an allowance.
To do with height. Mm-hmm.
It's an allowance, not an exception.
Yeah, it's not an exception, and it's allowance, and I would grant that allowance.
Is there a second to this motion?
Larson seconds the motion.
Larson seconded the motion. Member Benvenue, you have your hand up as well.
Well, I was going to ask for a clarifying question, the maker of the motion. If we're allowing staff to approve a wrought iron or presumably wood as well, if it's resubmitted that way, is there a reason, which I agree with, because I think that staff can make that decision just as they do with fences. Is there a reason not to just deny the exceptions in this case as requested, as opposed to leaving that an open question?
I think it's probably the same thing. I mean, we're not approving it, so it can't, the
okay.
exception isn't granted.
As long as,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk. As long as it's not being approved, I'm fine
right.
with that, yeah.
Well, for the finding, it's useful to have one or the other.
Well, how does staff feel? And maybe Carly too.
I would
if you-
say
if you
deny,
can tell us, give us some guidance here.
It is extremely helpful because that goes in the facts, findings, and conclusions of law to have that clarification in the language. So yes.
Yeah, I think
As to whether the exception is or is not, whether the criteria have or have not been met.
And the
Even though it's a
exception is,
postponement in terms
No.
of the criteria that need to be met for the railing?
My motion was that the criteria have not been met, and therefore that railing can't be approved. I really didn't want to go any further than that because I think that the applicant I want to leave the applicant as much freedom as possible. And if the applicant comes back with a wrought iron or a wood design that requires no exception, I'm very happy to have staff approve it.
Sure. I agree with that, and I was going to do a friendly amendment to get to that, but I do think that's different than the way the motion was originally stated, which was deferring a decision as to whether the exception criteria have been met. So now I agree that sounds like the motion as framed now is that the findings are the exception criteria have not been met.
Yes, I was sorry I was
to
unclear.
deny the exception.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you for that clarification. And Melissa, will we have a roll call vote?
Member Beachside,
Yes.
Member Bienvenue,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz,
Yes.
Member Larson.
Yes.
The motion has been approved.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Mr. Roach. And you heard, Mr. Roach, that your submission of the railing can be submitted to staff.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
Thank you.
Chairman, Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I clarify for the record with respect to the allowance that Mr. Schwab described? We're looking at section 14-5.2 D9C, little Roman numeral 2 F. Is this the provision that permits the allowance? It reads, the board may increase the allowable height for proposed buildings and additions located on a sloping site.
Yes, that's it.
Then natural grade along the structure's foundation exceeds 2 feet.
Yes.
Yes, that's it.
All right.
Thank you,
very much.
Attorney Rubali. That's correct. Vice Chair Katz, you have your hand up. Did you have
Well,
something further?
I was just wondering whether that allowance would even need to be given if the final version that the applicant talked about is in fact the same height as the house now and not taller.
I don't think so, because the maximum allowable height is measured from a different place.
Where is it measured from?
It's measured from the front of the garage, which is lower than the front of the house.
So is it correct then that we really don't need to approve that allowance? Because I think that needs to be, are we saying the project's approved with the understanding that the garage will be no higher than the existing house? Or are we saying that under this allowance, they'll be able to exceed the height of the house?
The allowance is necessary if it exceeds the maximum allowable height, which is 13 feet 8 inches, measured from the front of the garage, which lies below the house. The house measured from that point may be higher than 13 feet 8 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're requesting what, 14.3?
I don't have that exact measurement.
15.3, I think.
Or 15.3?
It's 15.3, but it's not likely to come down to 13 foot 8. I don't think that it's going to come down that far.
In my motion, I said that the allowance should be granted, and I'll stick with that.
Okay, so we did the roll call vote. Correct?
Approved.
And it passed?
Yes.
Okay,
It passed.
thank you. Anything, okay, we ended the discussion in reference to this case. We will go to Any discussion items, Carly?
Staff has no discussion items for tonight, Madam Chair.
Any matters from the board? It appears not. Our next meeting will be February the 8th. And I need a motion to adjourn. I haven't been asking for a motion. I used to, and then all of a sudden I just took it upon myself to adjourn. I think we actually, per Robert's rules, we actually need a motion in a second. So will some wonderful person move to adjourn?
Bienvenue moves to adjourn.
10 seconds.
Thank you, everybody. It's 7:31. You did a great job. We'll have to discuss to see if everybody feels that this type of format is working well for us and for the public. So good night, everybody, and we shall see you on February the 8th. Have a good evening. Oh, look, and that stuff went, oh no, never mind. I moved in the wrong direction. And does anybody know if it's raining or snowing?
Can't
No?
tell. Dark out.
Okay, well, good night, everybody.
Thank
You
you.
can go have dinner at a decent hour.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, good